Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Isam Esper. I'm a field application engineer with the support team of Electro Industries. In today's webinar, we will be talking about the advanced programming of the Nexus 1450, and that would be covering the power quality setup, the log profile, and a quick overview about the web page. Before starting on the programming and the software, I would like to give a quick overview about the Nexus 1450. As you're looking at this picture here, this is the Nexus 1450. It's a power quality high industrial meter. It comes with 4 serial communication ports. As you can see here, it has the first one, which can be switched between an RS-485 and RS-232, and another 3 serial RS-485 ports. It has an Ethernet, regular RJ45 connector, and another Ethernet through the fiber optic. So this one, or this meter, has 2 separate IP addresses at these 2 ports. And it comes also with the digital inputs and pulse outputs. This meter also, it's a cybersecurity meter, and it can do a waveform capture up to 1024 samples per cycle. To get more information about the meter, you can go to our website, electroind.com, and under the product here, if you go to product, you would be looking at the Nexus 1450 here. If you click on this one, you can find all the documents from here and all the user manuals. So going to the programming, as you know, we are using the Communicator software. We just released the new version, which is called Communicator PQA. You may be using the previous version, which was called Communicator EXT version 4. And both versions would be working fine to do the programming. To have the software, you can also go to the website on the same page, and under the products, if you scroll down, you can see the energy management software, and from here you can choose the Communicator EXT, and you can download the free version from here. So we will start now by connecting with the meter. I'm connecting to my demo meter here using the network port. So I would use the IP address, which is 10.0.0.14. And the device address is 1 by default, and the network port is 502. And I would hit connect. Once we are connected, we will get the device status window pop up here. And this window gives you the name of the meter here, the model, and the serial number. And on the right side, you would see the firmware information, the V-switch, and the status of the meter. So I would hit OK. And to do the programming, we will go to the profile here. So we will get like this, the device profile window opened. And as we talk today, we will be discussing the power quality and alarm settings. We will start with this tab here. So under the power quality and alarm settings, we see the limits. And we can assign all these limits to the meter up to 32. By default, the meter would be having the voltage and the current, as you can see. And the limits is a percentage of the full scale value. So as you can see here, we set the first one, the number 1 for voltage, A to neutral, and it's above 120% of the full scale value. So that full scale value, it's coming from the basic programming of the meter, which is the CT and the PT ratio. So this 120 is at 120% of the 120 volt. I would show you that. From the general settings here, we have CT PT ratios. And because we set the PT ratio for 120, 120, so this is considered as the full scale value. And for the current, it would be 800. So going back to the limits, so I can change this, for example, if I want to get an alarm when the voltage go above 110%, and that means 132 volt. Or it could be below 80%, or I can change this to 90%, which is 108. And the same for the current, it's a 120% of that 800, which is 960, or below 80% of that full scale current, which is 800. So I can add more channels by choosing that, and I can choose from the different group and the subgroups here, and assign another limit maybe for watt total. I can set the percentage for that. So that's all about the limits and how you can add more channels for that parameter. The next one we have is the Electro logic relay control. And if you are using that, this is where you can control and you can set the limits for that gate or that control. Then we have the power quality threshold or the waveform recording. This is where we have to set up the waveform recording. As you can see, we have the voltage and the current. For the voltage, we have the above and below, and we have the option to choose the starting and the return hysteresis, like by choosing the percentage when it's getting back to that point. So that would be stop recording. For the current, it's only above. We don't have the below limit. And we have also to enable the power quality trigger and the power quality from here to make sure that waveform is recording. We have also the option here to choose the sampling rate. As you can see, the different sampling rates here. This meter can do up to 1024 samples per cycle. And we can choose how many cycles before the trigger and how many cycles after the trigger. So this is all about the waveform recording settings and how we can program that. We have also the options here, and these things would be enabled. I will show that later from the digital inputs that we can choose which digital inputs is used for trigger events. Then we have the EN5160 settings, and this is where we can set the IEC 61000 or the EN5160 from here. So we have the nominal voltage and the nominal frequency, and the same for the EN5160. Then we have the harmonic and the interharmonic threshold. This is where we can set the percentage for that. This is for the harmonic and this is for the interharmonic. And then we have the digital inputs. This meter has 8 digital inputs. And as you can see, we can assign that channel 1 or 2 maybe for a waveform and power quality trigger or event trigger or KYZ. So for example, because I choose 1 and 2 here as a waveform power quality trigger, I can see them, I can see them here, and it's enabled here for 1 and 2. The other thing also on the digital inputs that we can choose the event trigger, and this is this meter has a special log for the event trigger, so we can assign which digital input for that also. After the power quality, we have the trending profile setup, and as you can see, this meter has 8 historical logs, and it has the event trigger log also. From the trending log time interval, this is where we can set the time interval for every log. Like for example, it's set for 15 minutes. We can double click on that and change it to be like 5 or 10 or 30 minutes. And the same, like we talked about the event triggered log. So this is set to be assigned to input number 3 from here. From the digital input setup, we set number 3 to be an event triggered log. And there is only one channel can be used for that. So I will go now to the trending setup, and I can choose any of the historical logs here. And as you can see, we can assign from these available points to be recorded in this historical log. So I can remove items from here and I can add back. So according to how many items we have here and the interval window for that, the software will tell me for how many days it would be recording in historical log 1. Like for example, if I change this to 5 minutes, I will get less days. And if I add more items or if I remove items from here, that would be also changing the time can be recorded for this log. So we can have different logs with different kind of parameters. Like for example, I can set the historical log 1 for voltages, currents, while maybe set historical 2 for energy. And to add some items, we can go from the group here. Like if I want to get the energy, I would go to accumulators and I would choose energy, scaled primary, and I can choose these items for energy. Measured value will give you the voltages, currents, the high speed, or the 1 second, and the different kind of other parameters. So having that 8 historical logs give you the option to have categories and assign different kind of parameters for each log. And then we have the last one, the event triggered log, and this is already assigned for that channel, so we can also have that parameters added for this historical log. So I can add from here the voltage A to B, B to C, C to A. And I would hit OK. And remember that everything we are doing here, it's on the software only. So if I want to upload these settings to the meter, I have to hit update device. And it would be reminding me that because I have an external modules connected, if I want to continue, I will just show you that the other message I'm getting here that because I did some changes on the historical log, so it would be alarming me that if I continue that the logs would be cleared, and it would give you the option to retrieve the logs before updating the device. So you can choose yes or no, and then it will tell you that are you sure to continue because that log will be cleared. And then you will get this message where you can check these boxes for the settings you don't want to change. So if I continue, it will start uploading the new profile to the meter. I will cancel that because it would take time to upload. The last one we have here is the external input-output modules. And as you can see here on this picture, we have port 3 and 4 can be used to be connected to an external modules. And that can be 4 to 20 milliamp, 4 channels or 8 channels, 0 to 1 milliamp, relay output, pulse input. So different kind of modules we have. So from here, we can open this window here and we can add the modules we have. As you can see, I have the 0 to 1 milliamp 4 channels here assigned to number 1. And each one of these modules come with a default address, which can be changed also. But this is the default address for this module. And I will choose that this module will be connected to either port 3 or 4. And then I can add more modules here. So if I hit edit here, I would be looking at the channels assigned for that module. And going to the module setting edit here. It will be opening the settings for that module now. And from here, we can set, like this one has 0 to 1 milliamps, so we can set the high value and the low value for that channels, which we choose in the Nexus settings here. And from here, we can update the settings to the module, and we can save this profile and load it also. I will hit cancel. And the same thing also for the device profile can be saved. And then you can use it to upload to another meter. Just make sure that you give different names for the meter and different communication, maybe IP address or settings. And there's like, it's very important to have a label for the meter. Like as you can see here from the labels, this is the meter designation. This is where the meter get the name. And because I would show you how when we retrieve the logs, the files, the log files and the DB files would be created based on this name. So if you have too many meters and creating or retrieving the logs from that meters without names, they would be all coming with the serial numbers because the meter name by default would be the serial numbers. So that's all about the power quality here and how we can program it. The next topic would be how we can retrieve the logs. We talked about how we can program the logs. So to retrieve the logs, we go to ret log here. And we will get this window here. And as you can see, it would show you the options or the historical logs. So you can check the boxes for which historical logs you want to retrieve. And you can choose the limits if it's available. So anything available, you can check it. And you will hit start. And now it's retrieving the. There you go. So it's done, and we got the log viewer opened here. And as you can see, based on what that DB file has, you can see the available options here on the right side. Before going to the log viewer, I would be showing you where is that file created and how we can find it, because we don't need to be connected with the meter to view the data. So I would exit from here, and I would close this. You can go to view options and choose this one here, the retrieved logs, and hit go to selected directory. So you will get this window open, and this is where all the retrieved logs created or the DB files created. So you can see the different type of models. So I will go back now to the log viewer, and I don't have to be connected with the meter. I would disconnect, and through the log viewer here, I can pick up that DB file. Like I would choose this meter now here to show you the different kind of readings. The historical trends will give you all the available points, which we did added to the historical logs. So you can see you have all these points here. So I can pick up what I need and hit OK. And I would be looking to this table here, which can be copied and exported to an Excel sheet. The other thing we can do is a graph, and we can have the voltages A and voltage B and hit advanced graph, and we will be looking at this dashboard. We can zoom in here like this. Let me show you the waveform also, and we can undo the zoom like this. From these options also, we can go to the waveform, and we can pick up the first one. And we will be looking at the waveform for that event. So we can choose the 3 voltages and double click. And we can zoom in here like this. Or we can pick up the volt A with the current A, and we will be looking at that two waveforms together. If we choose one only, we can go to the interharmonics. And we would be looking at this. And the other one would be the power quality, the system events. So based on what that DB file has, you would see these functions active or grayed out. That's all about how we can retrieve the logs and how we can view the data. The next topic would be the web page, and we can go to any browser like this and type the IP address of the meter. And from here, we can see everything we can see on the software. So all our meters has the web page where we can view the voltages, the real-time data, and some kind of information. But the Nexus 1450 has something additional to that, that it can view the waveform from here, and you can have all the power quality and the logs from the web page. And this is only for the Nexus 1450. Like comparing to the other, either the Nexus or the Shark models, they have the web page, but they don't have the option to view the waveform and the historical logs and the harmonics. So we can start with the voltages and the current like this. We can go to the power. Energy. The pulse accumulation. And we can go to the phasor also. So this is a nice function where we can check if there is any wiring issue on that meter. If we had noticed that the power or the energy readings are like kind of weird or incorrect, so we can come here and look at the phasor diagram and check the power factor, and that would give us a good indication about what is the wiring issue happening there by looking at the voltages and the currents. As you can see, we have the three voltages 120 degree apart. And because this meter in the lab, so we can see that it has a very good power factor, and the current and the voltage are on phase. But in real life, like, we would be looking at a small angle between the current and the voltage. But if it's something different than that, that will help us to find if it's a reverse polarity or if there is any cross phases to troubleshoot that wiring issue. We can click on the flicker also. So this meter can do both the short-term and the long-term flicker, or the instantaneous. And we can look at the harmonics for the voltages or for the current. And the inputs that the 8 digital inputs for that meter. And we have also the symmetrical component for more analyzing. The power quality data, this is like similar how we got all that information through the software and through the log viewer. We can have this, as I mentioned, through the web page. So we can pick up that if we want the data for the last week, the last 2 weeks, the last month, and we can query that, and we can look at that or download it and save it. So it's really fast and very quick without the software and without be connecting to like through the log viewer or through the software. You can view everything through the web page. The waveform also. And the same thing, we can set the range of the time and hit query and download. And we can double click on this event, for example, here. And we would be looking very easily to the waveform, similar to what we did on the log viewer software. So this is for voltages. We can zoom in and look at more details. Then we have the historical data. Still loading. This meter is connected through the VPN, so it may take a little bit more seconds. Okay, so from here we would choose the time for the last week or for the last month or for the last year, and we can add the available points similar to what we have in the historical logs profile. So we can add it to the right here. And order it. And we can download it from here. Then we have the limit, and it's the same limit we set on that profile. So we can see all the data here, like we can see the when it's out and when it's below. This is all the limits data. And we can always download that file by hitting query after setting the time we want and hit the download and save it from here. And we have also the digital inputs data if we have that information, but nothing is connected at that meter now. And then we have the system event. All the system events happening that anytime you can see that, for example, that day a password protection enabled, a configuration happening at that time. So it gives you all the events happened with the date and the time. Then we have the EN 5160 report. And again, this is based on what we set in the profile of the meter. So we will be looking at these reports and it will tell you here if it's fail or pass. So we can double click on any of these and we will be looking at that report like this. And we can have a printable version. Has all the information in one report. Then we have the meter information. This is all the information about the meter designation, the name, the serial number. And as we talked about previously, that this meter has two Ethernet ports, the regular one and the one over the fiber optic. So it can has two separate IP addresses. You can see that this is for the first one with the MAC address, and this is the other Ethernet IP address. And all the system information here, the meter application, and the certificate. Then we have the meter hardware. It gives you all the information about the component and the hardware and the firmware. And we have the meter diagnostics. This is for some kind of troubleshootings and testing we will do in case something happened on the meter. So that's all about the web page and power quality setup and the log profile. As I mentioned earlier, I would just repeat that if someone joined later, that you can always download the software from our website, electroind.com, products, and you go to energy management software. You can find the communicator ext here and download the free version from here. And for any more information or any support you would need, you can send an email to support@electroind.com. Thank you again for joining. And the next section would be the Q&A, where we can look at your questions and answer them. Thank you. Have a good day.